think a lot of people use it as social currency to sound intelligent and to avoid accountability. And a lot of people say that it's like setting their boundaries, but a lot of times that's not what boundaries are. They use it to control instead of actually set boundaries for themselves.
This journey of writing this is really distinguishing between what is good information to share on the counseling profession to sort of bring it up, right? We want people to feel like they can go to counseling or talk about these terms, but also, again, make sure we're using it appropriately and not, again, using it for buzzwords or to control or to pathologize.
You're listening to Mentor Moments, where we talk about all things counseling, technology, education, and career development. I am Braden Wooters, and I'm joined by my co-host, Dr. Michael Keener. Grab a seat, and let's get started.
Okay, welcome back to another episode of Mentor Moments. My name is Braden Wooters.
And I am Mike Keener, and we are joined by Liz Sarchet today.
Dr. Keener, why is Liz with us? We have a new guest.
I don't know. I thought you invited her.
I just met her.
Did she just pop in? What? Is she photobombing us? No, Liz
Lucky
is
you guys.
a current student in our clinical mental health program. I guess beginning of the spring semester, I was teaching ethics and Liz was in the course. And in the course, I talked about writing with students. And then I sort of posed this opportunity if anyone wanted to kind of co-write together. And Liz raised her hand and said, let's do it. And we talked about writing a short piece for the Counseling Today magazine on therapy speak. So that's why Liz is with us, and I was priming her for her life to change now that
she's a guest.
Right. Life changing. This is a threshold moment for her.
This is. There's life before an episode and life after. I mean, we have catching up to do. It's been a while since we've all had the chance to chat. So, Dr. Keener, what have you been up to?
Should I get to go first?
Yeah, you go first.
All right. Well, I guess it's spring, right? So I don't know when people will be listening to this. So it's just wonderful outside. It's opening day for all the Go Card fans, right? So Go Cards. But I think pretty much everybody knows that I love wrestling and I hang out with Maryville's wrestling team. And we just had the national tournament in South Dakota in Sioux Falls when we had 2 Americans. So to be an All-American, you had to finish in the top 8 of the country. And I did a little bit math. It's like you have a 5% chance. If everybody was equal, you have a 5% chance to finish the top 8 in the country. There's about 70 programs, and maybe there's 2 to 3 guys per weight class, et cetera, et cetera. Both were seniors, so that was awesome. One senior was a 3-time All-American, Cole Ritter. So he's Maryville's 4th 3-time All-American. And then Jeremiah Larson, he qualified for the national tournament twice. This last time he was an All-American. So it was great to see both of them, finish on the podium, as we said. So that's sort of what's new. I did some home improvement. I fixed my gate. It was pulling away from the wall, so I had to make the spacer and line it all up. But if we want to talk home improvement, we can do that as well.
Like gate outside, or
yeah, we have a detached garage, and we call it a breezeway. I don't know if that's the official term, but we have it fenced in, and I think some of the concrete has been shifting, and so it pulled off the wall a little bit. So I was using my engineer's brain because when you just talk to it, like counsel it doesn't work. It doesn't fix itself. Not like people. So I had to get a little.
You can't let that little puppy get out.
Right. You can't get Pippa. So that's what's new. What about you, Brayton?
I'm back from Utah. Took a trip. I had never been to Utah. So following the school. When does Maryville's spring break?
That was we don't have one now for our program because it's 2 8-week sessions, but it was.
I was like, yeah, when is that?
What?
Technically, it was 2 weeks ago. So. Yeah.
Okay, wow, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to do it. Well, anyway, back to me. I had a spring break. Lindenwood had their spring break a little earlier than I feel like some other schools. So I needed something to do over my spring break, and I was looking at trips, and I was like, oh man, there's so many pretty state parks in Utah. I haven't hiked in a long time. All my other friends are, they're not following a school schedule. I'm the only one that does that has that break. So who is going to go with me? My dad is who went with me. So I pulled Jeff with me. and Jeff and I went out into the great outdoors for about a week, and I think we hiked on average like 5 miles a day, which isn't crazy, but it was enough to where like your ankles start to swell and start to wonder if it was a good idea. I mean, super pretty, super beautiful. Would definitely go again. But yeah, so now I'm back and
Yeah,
rolling
you
through life.
shared me that one video, and it just looked breathtaking.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. I mean, it is a lot of deserts and mountainous areas and stuff like that, which I mean, for some people that's like their everyday. And for us, I feel like it's so I grew up in Illinois, so flat, flat, flat. So anything that's even Cahokia Mounds is like huge for me. So to be around, Utah and to see that area was just super cool. So it's super, super awesome. So
And you and
anyway.
your dad are still getting along, or Jeff? Should
We
I say
didn't we
Jeff?
didn't destroy each other. Yeah, no, it went great. Him and I are very alike, where like I think our like temper or like levels of patience are very alike, so we can kind of gauge each other pretty well. So it's like, okay, if I'm getting hungry, odds are he's getting hungry too, so I probably shouldn't make this joke. So it was good
So
to
when
I
is
think.
Jeff going to be on the show then, on the podcast?
Well,
Then?
my goodness, really thrives on he hates the spotlight. That he's always been kind of a behind the scenes kind of guy. He loves to kind of support without being center of attention. That's kind of his whole shtick.
Maybe
So
he
I
could be
think that's
off
what.
camera, and we could just hear his voice,
Oh
right?
my
It'll just be
gosh.
this.
Oh my gosh. We'll do like puppets for him. No, I don't know if he'd ever do it. All right, we'll come back to that. Anyway, enough about me. Or enough on me.
Well, Liz, what do
We
we
have
need to know about you, Liz?
exactly.
What do our listeners
Nothing.
need to
Where
know?
in Illinois did you grow up?
Central Illinois, so Shelbyville it's called
Oh, I live
Shelbyville.
in
So
Carlisle.
oh, cool. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, that makes
Carlisle Lake, isn't there a lake right there, right?
Yep,
Wait, can we ask
big
Liz
one. That's where I
the
go
question
camping.
though, right?
ask what?
Liz, the question, does she know about the two-story outhouse?
Maybe not. I forget. Yeah, I don't think she does. Well, then there's an episode. We'll send you the link of one of our episodes where all I do. There's this big outhouse. There's this big 2-story outhouse, kind of in the middle of Central Illinois, that I love taking people to, and we have an entire episode kind of dedicated to it. So I'll send you the link.
Awesome.
Yeah, of course. But anyway, more updates on you. I want to know. I want to know more about you. This is our first time chatting.
Getting through my master's program, rolling through it. I'm excited for actually come an internship in August. A little nervous. Do you have any advice for me on that one?
I think I can give more advice once I know what you want to do, where you want to go. What's your
I honestly have no idea.
well, a lot of what
Marriage and family counseling is probably like what's drawing me most right now, but I'm still really open. So I kind of want to test the waters on a few different things.
and that's the exact. I mean, if I were to give advice, it's stuff that you're already saying, which is that mindset of wanting to learn and see as much as you can. I would really, yeah. I mean, just try to diversify. I got really lucky being at Youth in Need. They had paid their interns towards the end there, which was really really nice. And
Where
I
Dr.
got
B works?
yeah that yes. So yeah, but prior to that, I don't know if you've had any classes with Crystal. I don't know if she's still able to teach any classes with rehab or not.
She
Okay,
can, but she's the director
she's
of our music therapy
she's too
program,
busy.
who was one of our graduates as well. Her undergrad was music therapy, and then she has a master's in counseling.
Hmm. Yeah,
How many teachers how many teachers were students and came back?
I'm waiting for my turn.
What do you think
Anyway,
about Lindenwood?
oh, this isn't on me. This is about you. Like anyway, I love Lindenwood. I love Lindenwood.
I like to deflect.
Yeah, right. I love Lindenwood. I knew that after I left Youth in Need, I wanted to be in a university setting. So it was either going to be here or SLU. They had a position available with just their law students, and I would be a therapist just for their law students. And anyway, I ended up choosing Lindenwood. I just work with their student athletes. Just Lindenwood's like 30% student athletes, which is just I mean, it's just huge, So it's definitely needed. And I love it. I love my job. I love being here. I love working with college students. Everything that I'm saying is things that Dr. Keener has said. So anyway, enough questions about me. I want to know like why you wanted to, I guess, go into therapy, I suppose. Like that's kind of the
Bartender by trade right now. So I feel like I'm already getting some
big
hands-on
time.
action in it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, and I love listening to problems and kind of giving people new perspectives and stuff like that. So I felt like it would be a good fit for me. And then I also love the flexibility of it, like how many different options there are for counselors.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So then, I mean, maybe this is another question that's like, do you know, like, kind of where you'd want to do your practicum and internship? Like, do you have ideas like of like certain niches or populations or?
I definitely want to try marriage and family therapy, but other than that, I'm completely open. I kind of want to like try a little bit of everything, which I know I have to narrow that down a little bit, but
This is the
trauma
time.
focus and students, I like high school age. I really like that. I feel like there's so much stress that goes on in high school.
Makes total sense.
How far do you want to drive?
Oh, I don't mind. Like an hour and a half, maybe tops.
Yeah,
You
that's
may
not
come out to
bad.
you?
I don't think I would say. Yeah, how far is it from St. Louis to?
About an hour. My
That's-
grandma actually lives in Maryland Heights, so I drive over there all the time anyways.
There's a
Got me
couple places in downtown. When we're tomorrow, I'll shoot you some thoughts.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Practicum's so fun. Anyway, what are any other updates? What do people need to know about you, Liz?
Honestly, I live a pretty boring life. I have 3 kids, married, just working my way through school.
Ages? Are they teenagers? Like all young?
No, 8, 5, and 3. Very young. Got my
Young
hands
and
full for sure.
busy. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
And 3 dogs. I have a Great Dane and then 2 wiener dogs.
Let's
Love them so much. Yeah, speaking of which, you see a note.
He came over to say hi.
Hello, bud. He's like, oh, you talking about me?
That is such you said a Great Dane and 2 wiener
Yeah,
dogs?
that's my big boy. Yeah. 2 miniature wiener dogs, so opposite ends of the spectrum there.
That's what I was gonna say. I was like, just totally opposite dogs.
Yeah.
Have you ever gone to Soulard's dog parade?
Oh, I have not. I didn't even know that was a thing. That sounds fun.
Yeah, so I don't know. One of the Saturdays before, the kickoff of Mardi Gras, or it's part of that Mardi Gras. It's a blast because there's always Great Danes dressed as cows, so
I love that.
we used to go all the time with our Boston Terrier, and I would advocate family friendly.
I'll have to check it out for sure.
It's not the amount of drinking that goes on like on Mardi Gras there, so it is fun to
Come on,
see how
back up.
Seeing Snoot. Oh my gosh. Well, I was just about to say, you're talking about the dogs. You do know they do like a wiener dog race, right?
Stop. Where?
At the exact same event, they do the parade, and
No, I
I
have
think
to
either
go.
the day before or either a couple days afterwards, they do a wiener dog race. It's like a derby, the wiener dog derby.
That is amazing.
I love it. I love it so much. Very cool. Okay, so should we get rolling into life? Should we get rolling into our topic?
Therapy speak is it, huh?
Let's do it. Let's chat. So, tell me how this formulated. Like, I want to know. I've been fairly removed until now from this. So, how did this originate?
Liz, you want to take this one or what?
Well, Mike posted a bunch of different topic ideas, and therapy speak happened to be one of them. And I really liked that because, okay, I know it's my guilty pleasure, but have you guys heard of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives?
Oh, have I not? Come on.
Well, okay, so in season 2, one of the girls says something about them trauma bonding just because they were both like outcasted from the group. And I was like, that's not what that means. And so that's what like originally got me rolling on it. And then on TikTok, doom scrolling, you hear people like saying people are narcissistic or something just because they didn't agree with them. And I was like, that's not what that means. That's what got me started on it. I
I'm
just
old,
feel like
so
more
all
people
these
need to
things,
know about it.
went over my head because, I'm not TikToking and
Well, and you're only on season 1 of Mormon Wives, Dr.
right.
Keener,
Yeah, I
so you
haven't
have to
hit
catch
that
up.
one. Yeah.
Come
Yeah.
on. It's okay. I just finished season 2, so
Well,
not
my
too far behind
speed
you.
is American Chopper. You ever watch it back in the day when the Tuttles or whoever, they were angry. There's some family counseling you could do, Liz, right there. You can go to Orange County, New York, and work with the Tuttles.
Speaking of
That's
choppers,
our-
though, I just signed up for my motorcycle rider course. I'm gonna learn
That is
how.
so cool. That is so cool. How do we get on this?
Yeah,
Oh,
sorry.
yeah,
Back to this.
Yeah, no, because now you got me thinking of like Pawn Stars. I was like, I could do like family therapy. I would love to do family therapy with that family, the Pawn Star people. Oh, hello. Okay, so then fill me in. I don't know the next
Yeah, so
question. Somebody help me.
Well, again, it was just let's write a short piece. The Counseling Today magazine typically looks for people to submit articles on blog posts. This was a knowledge share. I think one of the reasons why we decided a knowledge share is because you could co-write. The blog posts were supposedly single, and it was just an opportunity to sort of dig on a topic. And I think it's nice for students to get a line on their resume, their CV, that they have something published in Counseling Today. And so we just jumped in and did it. It's only 1,000 words, up to 1,000 words. So it's relatively simple, geared for, other practitioners. And so that's how it came about.
So I guess I'll bust right into it then. Like, what is therapy speak, if we were to define it?
You want to take that one?
You could take this one, Liz.
It's just the misuse of clinical words. And a lot of times it's like flattened for pop culture, social media to spread fast and far.
And a lot of times it's used sort of in a derogatory way or a blaming way. It's said sort of, it becomes sort of buzzwords, and then the meaning sort of again shifts, or it's just not accurate. I mean, it really both ways. It can be misused by the person using it because maybe they're not going to embrace they're using the catchword to say, oh, you're doing this to me. So they're not sort of looking at themselves, but then also blaming or pathologizing that other person, like saying, oh, you're being narcissistic or you're being codependent, sort of this negative thing versus sort of understanding, well, why are they acting this way? And what am I contributing to that process?
I had so many questions. Yes. I mean, if I were to contribute anything to this, it's this is something that really has grinded my gears, where like I'll see somebody or watch a video or I'll talk to somebody that will use a term and I'm like, is that really the right language? I don't know if that's really the most appropriate use of that word. And it's tough because then as the therapist in the room, it's like, is it my job to then step in and to re-educate this individual? Is it appropriate to do that? Like, I'm not the I can't say that I am like the expert on narcissism. So and also if I correct this person, like, what does this do for, I don't know, I don't want to actually, and then, shoot somebody down and make them, but, oh, well, all therapists do is correct and stuff like that. So, I concur with everything that we're talking about. I guess my next question is why? Why does it exist then?
I think a lot of people use it as social currency to sound intelligent and to avoid accountability. And a lot of people say that it's like setting their boundaries, but a lot of times that's not what boundaries are. They use it to control instead of actually set boundaries for themselves. Like, did you hear about the Jonah Hill thing where his text messages with his girlfriend got leaked? He was like, you can't surf with guys, basically to his girlfriend. It makes me uncomfortable. And when it got out there, he said, oh, well, I was just giving my boundaries. But no, he's trying to control her using that word. That was like a whole big thing. It's like, you can say like, if you surf with guys, I will have to remove myself from this relationship. Like, I'm not comfortable with it. So I'll just have to take a step back. But saying you cannot surf with guys is not boundaries.
I have so many thoughts. I also, think about, I do agree, like that there is a level of like social currency of like, somehow I have one up to the individual around me. And also I come back to the why, because why are we using therapy terms? Like, out of all the terminology that we could be using, we're utilizing terms that are being used by therapists. And it brings me back to the mystification of our role, which is, well, if nobody really knows what they're talking about, then I can get away with using this because who's going to correct me? Because none of us really know what this means. So good luck correcting me if I use this wrong. That's what I keep coming back to. It's like a weird reminder for me of like, just how little knowledge there is about our role, our job, the vocabulary that's used. I'm going to stop there. Is any of that resonating?
Well, yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, I guess saying, I know we talked about the Gloria films before on the podcast here, but to me, what made me think of that was back in 1964, even though counseling has sort of been around for 60 years, it was still very mysterious. Nobody really saw sort of behind the door. And so there's this balance between letting people in, but then also not using it for, I guess, evil, or, make sure we're using it for good. So how can we, so you said why therapy words? I think, again, you said, because we can sound intelligent, social capital, but there is this balance.
I think there is just an over pathologizing too.
Yeah.
And everyone has autism or OCD or something.
Yeah. And again, it's easy. It's the buzzword, right? Instead of really trying to articulate your thought, it's easier to say, you're just being a jerk or whatever. Those things. And again, for me, part of this journey of writing this is really distinguishing between what is good information to share on the counseling profession to sort of bring it up, right? We want people to feel like they can go to counseling or talk about these terms, but also, again, make sure we're using it appropriately and not, again, using it for buzzwords or to control or to pathologize. So
I also think about like the tools in which we utilize. Like if we're still doing this like theme of like, well, why therapy? Like why isn't this happening with like dentistry? Like here are a bunch of dentistry terms, and all this other stuff. It's the fact that I mean, a therapist typically the main tool that we're utilizing is language, and we don't hold a monopoly on language. Language is everybody. Everybody actually has that tool. So because that tool is so, you know accessible to people. I think that that's another reason why therapy talk, it's in what we're talking about, is so rampant because they're utilizing the same tools, maybe not skillfully, maybe not, with a technique or approach or a format or a theory behind it, but it's like, oh, well, you talk, I talk. It's the same thing, right? No, not really. So that's the other thing I was thinking about.
I think a lot of people just don't realize the nuance behind those words and all the little parts that go into them.
I have more thoughts because we're talking about like, I mean, if we're getting into the nitty gritty of things, I'd love to hear some examples. So we already said a couple like narcissism, boundaries. Are there any other like
gaslighting
examples?
is something we probably hear a lot,
Yes.
I mean, OCD and autism too. Like, I don't know if you've scrolled through TikTok and somebody who prefers cleanliness just automatically thinks they have OCD now.
Yeah. That is fascinating now. Like even I hear students at like in the dining hall all the time talking about taking these autism assessments online, and they now know what percent of autism they have, and so like it's like you're saying, it's sort of got caught up in our social media in the influencers or whatnot.
And it's really tough as practitioners when we see the language. The first thing that I think a lot of practitioners want to do is come in and put it back in its box. Okay, well, you're using this language incorrectly. Let's like re-educate you so that you understand that like it goes back in here. Well, and I'm using autism as an example right now because I remember and I'll have to find the article, but the article was essentially just saying how the autism spectrum has essentially lost all meaning. How because of the way that language has expanded past this box of the spectrum, that utilizing the word spectrum almost doesn't even count anymore because it's just become this more amorphous thing. So I think that's where my mind stops. That's where my thought process stops for right now.
Well, and Liz and I had this conversation. Like, I think there is a normal process of words changing meaning through the years.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Like hysteria, that used to mean anxiety, and now it means like actual hysterical. And
Mm-hmm.
as an example, but doesn't it don't you think it like takes away from people who are higher on the spectrum of autism and maybe need a little bit more care for somebody who's just likes things a particular way, says that they're autistic? That was my concern with it, was that it might take away from people who actually need more intensive care.
and to me, that's one of the take homes. And even from like a disability perspective, we want somebody to be able to define, whether they want to say I am autistic or I'm somebody with autism. So identity first or person first language. I want somebody to be able to sort of describe themselves in the most articulate way. And then again, when we get into therapy speak, it's sort of taking that away, right? It's sort of again reducing it to the lowest common denominator or the negative versus really giving somebody more power to describe really how they're feeling and how they're interacting with somebody. Again, somebody could truly be mad at somebody, but we should help them sort of express that in a way that's not demeaning to the other person or get that more nuance. It's almost when we're learning counseling skills and we say we need to go more when we're reflecting back emotion. Oh, more to say, oh, you're just sad. Well, there's so many other nuances way to kind of talk about an emotion. So I see that
So
great thinking face, Brayton.
my brain is going to, if we're talking about the quote unquote, the weaponization of therapy terms, I then also then go down the pipeline of weaponization of just therapy itself and going down the same lens of therapy talk to like validate behavior maybe in an inappropriate way, I can't help but come back to the age old term. I had to write it down because I knew I'd forget. I talked to my therapist about this, blank, 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 in a sentence. Or that's something that I've seen quite often, either like in real life or like in media, which is, hey, I talked to my therapist about this. That's why I'm going to do XYZ, almost as a placeholder for, I explained this to somebody and they validate, so I don't have to explain it to you. And I've seen it very much kind of in that realm, which is, well, I've already talked to my therapist about this. I've done the work already. I'm going to do XYZ. I've also seen it done, which is like, well, my therapist said blank. I worked with kids, and so I had to be incredibly careful. I almost wish everybody worked with kids to a certain point, because of language and how easy it is for one word to be taken and just would fly through it. I mean, one of the first things that my supervisor at the time, Christy Hammond, she really emphasized was like how you even just talk about depression. Because if you just bring it in front of a kid, then they're going to say, "Oh, well, my therapist said that I'm depressed." And who knows what that ends up? You go to your parent, you go to your dad, you go to your friends. My therapist said I was depressed because they used the D word. And so there is that lens of accountability, of responsibility of, okay, if we go down this rabbit hole, if we start talking about depression, how am I going to present it? How am I going to talk about this in a way that it doesn't turn into this? Now, I'm not saying that we have to treat everybody like a child, but there are skills and tools in there that I think are very, very important as a therapist to utilize. I'm going to pause. I just said a lot there. Any thoughts, feelings?
You mentioned earlier about how do we correct a client. And I think in some ways it's going back to what you just said right here. So, how do we present information to the client that then they know how to communicate outward? Right. And so, yeah, there might be some times where you might say, is that person really being narcissist, or are they really gaslighting you, or are they really trauma bond, kind of versus, no, you're wrong. But how do we help them create a language to articulate their true feelings versus, again, sort of reducing it to, or, again, using it to blame or label or pathologize?
And the last thing that I'll piece to this, and then I'll stop, is that like there aren't any times wherever somebody's like, oh, well, I talked to my plumber about this, so I'm gonna do XYZ. I mean, that applies for like if you're gonna fight on what to do with the sink, and it's like, well, my plumber told me to do this, so I'm going to take out the pipe. Like that's applicable. But it seems like for therapy, it's like, well, I talked to my therapist about this, so I'm going to do XYZ, and that gets accounted for everything for some reason. Like, oh, well, I talked to my therapist about this, so I'm going to leave my job. Or, well, my therapist told me XYZ, so I'm going to cut off the people in my life. And utilizing that as almost like a blanket statement for accountability. That is something that I think is very interesting.
Well, I know this might not be therapy speak, but I know I usually chat with students in clinical courses about just because we are labeled as the counselor, the therapist, or once we graduate, we have the diploma on the wall. The clients put so much faith and emphasis in us. And so I think that's sort of this natural, they're the experts, or you're supposed to. So I think, again, there is this balance that we need to play to really craft or take care of, be respectful of that therapeutic relationship, because they do put that, I guess, hope within us. Right. And so again, it can be, and again, maybe it came out, I guess there's so much there, not to overgeneralize, but maybe again, we did have a great session with somebody, and then coming home, the person does say, well, I did have this conversation. And again, that could be genuine and natural. So again, it's what this, again, we need to sort of look at, just like anything with language, what's the intent or the kind.
Well, there's like this skill that therapists have to have, which is like, trust me, but don't trust me too much to where it goes too far, which is such a weird thing. Like most people, most professions, it's like, no, the more trust that I can gain with you, the better. The more that I can get you to agree with what I'm saying, yes. But in therapy, it's very much like, okay, I don't want you to think that I'm the expert on your life. I want you to think that I'm an expert in some way, shape, or form, because out of the two of us here, I am the therapist. But there is a limit to it. So there is language and skills and tools and an approach, I think, that we learn to manage expectations, which is so difficult to teach, I think. And it's also depending on who you're talking to. If it's a child, if it's, an adult, if they've never been to a therapist, right? So if this is their first time in therapy and they're talking to, they might think that you are this all-knowing expert on everything, or they might think the exact opposite. Well, you know, you don't know anything because this is my first time meeting you. Very, very nuanced.
I agree. I think that instead of like having our clients say like, oh, he's just being narcissistic, I think we should turn it back into them and use I first language. And when they did that, it made me feel uncomfortable, just turn it back to them and how they felt about the situation versus having them pathologize someone else.
I think also it just makes us think about when is it in an article I try to frame this as professional language versus therapy speak. So again, how do we help them still use those terms, but again, use them appropriately versus not.
That takes all of us educating more.
100%.
There's so many people on social media educating incorrectly.
And again,
Like there
maybe
needs to be
that's
more qualified people.
the real issue. Anybody can put something out there, right? Or it's easy to, again, maybe I get a like or something, I get my thumbs up or the heart and all that kind of stuff. And they're doing it for the reaction, but then it has consequences when it's applied in everyday world.
I appreciate that we're seeing this from both like a micro lens of like the accountability for therapists and also the accountability of just society of like what direction, we would go. I wish that there was more content moderation around that kind of piece. I mean, like I'm pretty sure like if there's misinformation, there are typically is like labels and stuff like that. It makes me wonder about like how far does misinformation labels go in terms of social media, TikTok, all that other jazz. If you all were to write like a part two, like this was you mentioned it, like this was a bit of a shorter article just to constraints. If you were to write like a part two to this, like what direction do you think this would head?
That's a great question. Should I let Liz answer that one first or?
Yes.
Well, I think I would turn it into give her
Thanks.
time to think, but I think I would try to turn it into some kind of study. What do we really know? What does the average therapist know? One of the things that Liz and I did is we just did a quick search in the Counseling Today, webpage, and there wasn't any other article on therapy speak there. However, you do, as Liz alluded to, it's sort of everywhere in social media. So there's lots of sort of like other counselor blogs talking about it, but not from this maybe larger
You sent me one that had like a little study in it, didn't it? Where it said like it viewed over like so many TikToks and like 530 of them were spreading misinformation.
Right. So let's dig into it. And it maybe to me, again, being the old guy in the group, is there generational differences in our knowledge on therapy speak to make sure that we're, again, staying up to date? And so that's what I would say. Let's dig in. Let's like do some kind of descriptive study or kind of figure out, again, maybe this is also important for middle and high school, working in the school system when we're so much more influenced by social media. We're looking at other developmental milestones if there is something connected there.
I like that idea of like seeing the difference between like what the general public knows and actual therapists, like just seeing how the words compare between the two.
Yeah, I'm just going back to all my times in therapy. Like I'm just going back to all my sessions and like the ways in which I would present things. Like I'm not saying that because at Youth in Need we weren't allowed to diagnose, which I think at the end of the day it did more good than bad, just because it limited, I think, some therapists that are fresh from saying things that were too blanket statements. And also, when you tell a 10-year-old, "Hey, you have depression," there are 1,000 ways that can go. And a 10-year-old is like, "Oh my gosh, what does that even mean?" Or they might have watched a video, or maybe the only form of depression they have ever seen was from, I don't know, an animated movie, was from like How to Train Your Dragon. I don't know. So it makes me think about like the skills that they taught us of like, because we can't say, "Hey, you have depression," how are we labeling this as like, "Hey, maybe showing signs of blank." Like even something as small as that, even that small reframe is enough to get us away from these blanket large statements of this person's a narcissist, or this couple is codependent, to, okay, they're showing signs of X. Now we're not saying it's this thing. It is showing qualities of blank, or it's meeting the criteria of blank. Reframes like that have been incredibly helpful in my job, even right now. I mean, where I'm working with people and I'll see signs. And so anyway, yeah. What did we miss? Did we miss anything? I feel like we've been yapping a good much.
Yeah, it is. I think this has been a good conversation.
Yes, yes. You know what? I wanna make Liz our like, you are our guest, so we're gonna put it back on you, I think.
Man.
Yeah, I'm thinking of like speed run questions to ask you, because we need our people to know more about you. Mentors in your life. Who are people who you've looked up to, either like in the therapy space, out of the therapy space? Who are people that you'd
Well,
shout out?
Dr. Keener, your joy for your job and teaching and everything, I love that. So you are definitely my biggest
Excellent.
mentor right now. Dr. B seems awesome. I've only had 2 classes with him so far. But other than that, my mom, she's my rock, my biggest support.
If you were, I mean, going into grad school is a tough decision. I guess I mean, for some people it's easy. It's just like, yeah, no, this was just always part of the plan. For some people, it never was. And then to do it in therapy, that's another landscape. I guess, however much detail you feel comfortable sharing, I'd love to know a little bit more about your decision to be where you're at now.
Always been interested in psychology. I started out as a CNA. I took CNA classes and was a certified nursing assistant for a while. And it didn't really speak to me. I was not able to help in the way I wanted. But as a bartender, I just listened to a bunch of people's problems and learned that I could make a difference, because people would come back the next week and be like, oh my goodness, I talked to my boss, and, just things were improving for them. And it made me want to be in this profession. What got me into it.
I love that. Is there a mentor moment? Like, how do we close this? Is there a piece of advice that we should give? Is there like a resource? What's most appropriate for a
Well,
episode
check
like
out
this?
our article. Hopefully we have to wait 6 to 8 weeks for it to review, but keep looking for the Knowledge Share ACA, Counseling Today magazine. But I guess one thing I would just say is just spend a little bit more time just recognizing the language that you use and the language that we hear.
Yeah.
Self-reflect. Don't use language to avoid accountability.